Lord, I'm standing here and I don't know what to do. The enemy is saying, give up 'cause I'm through. So I'll just lift up my
Welcome back to week number 4, the final week of winning my race and the 28-day revolution. You know, we have so many things going on in our lives. Anybody busy? You know, if you're like me, 3 kids, 3 companies, wife, trying to build my relationship with God, build myself up physically, mentally, emotionally. There's a lot to do in a day. And so the reality is, while we're getting so many great things from our church, from our reading, in prayer, there's so many things that life has to offer. The challenge is having the life skills to put it all together. So I really feel like this final video that I'm doing, putting the winning war plan in place, I think it may be the most important tool that we give you. We need an incredible toolbox if we're going to go and build something fantastic like an amazing life. So I want to talk to you today about creating solid yellow boxes. And the other thing we're going to discuss is the written to-do list. When you combine the written to-do list with solid yellow boxes, you've got a winning combination, an unbelievable set of tools to really run your life and run your life well and just win it. So this to-do list, this written to-do list, it's simple. It's a written list that lets you see exactly what to do, and it eliminates memory management. I really feel like memory management is the key cause of depression, stress, and sleepless nights, where you're trying to remember what to do in any given day or week. I think another critical mistake you can make is that your life is all written down on little yellow stickies and napkins and scraps of paper, instead of having a legitimate file on your computer, or at least a legitimate white pad for that matter, that has all the action steps required to meet your goals that we talked about, and all these things are written down. So when you fill out this written to-do list, we then are going to place those activities in your war plan. Now, why do we call it a war plan? Obviously, that sounds like some sort of tough, bloody, masculine thing. Well, you know, Jesus came to give you life and give it to you abundantly. That's what he tells us in John 10:10. But it also says there that the thief comes to kill and to destroy and to steal, to take away the joy that you're supposed to be having in your life, the health you're supposed to be having, just the great family, the financial security. The thief comes to steal it. You're at war to make winning your race happen. So we need a war plan. Like they say, if you fail to plan, then plan to fail. So what is the war plan? Well, this is when you convert the to-do list along with your fixed schedule into a weekly action plan. So you take what has to be done and give it a specific day, time, and duration in order to accomplish it without worry. So, you know, we're at war, but we can win this war if we've got a great plan. This really is the life skill. You know, so many people just don't have a plan. I would say that maybe 1 to 2% at most of the population has a plan for abundance in their life and allows them to overcome the destroyer. For most people, we're simply losing the war. So what does this war plan look like? Well, certain things, again, they're fixed. So the time you go to work, the time you go to school, the time you go to church, these are fixed activities. And so let's give you an example of what maybe a war plan for a day would look like. So for me, you know, maybe at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's when I get up, and then from 5 to 5:30 in a solid yellow box. And why do we call it a solid yellow box? Because if I look left or right, up or down, I'm in a box. I'm completely there in these activities. On a road, we call it a solid yellow line. You can't cross a solid yellow line. Well, I can't cross out of a solid yellow box. I am there, focused on the activity. So from 5 to 5:30, this is my spiritual triathlon. It's my time with God. I'm speaking, I'm reading, and I'm listening. And this is my spiritual triathlon that goes on from 5 to 5:30. Now, I don't let that alarm go off maybe any earlier, so I sleep all the way till 5, but I also don't hit the snooze button, which we also call the Satan button, which then breaks through the solid yellow line. It breaks through the box, and so instead of starting from 5 to 5:30 with God, I've taken that important relationship, that most important time, and I've shattered it. I started at 5:15 instead of 5. So 5 to 5:30, a solid yellow box, time with God. 5:30 to 6, fitness time. Now, of course, what we'll be showing you with this tool we have, Max T3 for fitness, it doesn't even take a whole half hour. You can do it in 12 to 15 minutes. But that 5:30 to 6-ish is a solid yellow box for fitness. We take 7 to 11. That may be your mission that you're on. It may be your business life or your ministry. That's what happens 7 to 11, and maybe it's what goes on Monday through Friday every week. 11 to 1, for many people, they've managed to make this a family time. Maybe you're going to your kid's school and having lunch, or you're having lunch with your wife or your husband. That's what 11 to 1 is. It's when you'll eat. It's when you'll have some family time. 1 to 3, education and personal growth time. That's when you would put in a solid yellow box a time when you would actually read, or you would study. You would do things to enhance your skill set so that you continue to progress in life. 3:30 to 6, we're back on mission, working on our finances. And then 7 to 9, 10 p.m., that's family life. That's, once again, it's in a solid yellow box. What does that mean? If I'm really spending time with my spouse, with a child, as a family, it means we don't pick up the cell phone. It means we don't answer the text. It means we don't get on the computer or sit there in front of a TV. This is true, focused, quality time, but also quantity of time that is protected so that you are building a great life. This is a critical skill. Here's an example, too. You should do this for your children. Of course, if you don't have a good war plan, it's hard to teach one. But children should have some level of a war plan that you're helping them manage. So if you want your kids to actually be reading their Bible or praying, then make a time for it. You know, I can tell you that in my personal life, like with my wife, you know, we love to pray together. We love to exercise together. Date nights are important. All of our spiritual activities are important. Guess what happens if we don't plan them? We don't do any of them. If we're trying to wing our week and mail it in, well, then by the end of the week, we look back and we didn't do any of the things that we love to do together. Eventually, we start to even fight or not get along. And however, thankfully, at this point, I've realized that when I'm fighting and not getting along with my wife, I don't say, "Oh, God, what did you do giving me this bad woman? I made a huge mistake." I'm smart enough to evaluate and say, you know what? I'm losing the war because we haven't planned the things that we know that are important for building our relationship. Same thing with our children. If we want them to grow up as spiritual children of God, followers of Christ, then they need to have a devotional time that you set aside. It might be 5 minutes or 3 minutes, but set it aside. Of course, they got their school life that's just set in stone. We put some time aside for homework and educational activities and videos. And here's the big thing. We manage their play life from this perspective. So many kids now with technology, you can live in front of the TV. There's fun stuff to watch 24 hours a day. You can live in front of a little handheld game or in front of any type of computer, and suddenly it's engulfing their entire life. If they're texting nonstop thousands of times a week, how will they ever hit their important goals? So we need to manage that time. And of course, we also need to put time in for physical activity, sports life. So many kids have become sedentary and doing nothing, and it's led to just a huge surge in childhood obesity. So we need to put that time in place, as long as other time that would be set in stone in solid yellow boxes to make sure they're progressing in important things like a hobby or a music life or a piano lesson, something, some skill set that you feel is important to their life. So you got to remember, your child cannot be more organized and manage their life better than you do. So you want to be an example, and you want to make sure that they're following your example and there is a war plan for them. Just a few final war plan tips. Here's when you know you're in trouble. You know that you're beginning to lose the war. You're setting yourself up for failure in your life. One is when your war plan isn't determining how you're spending your week and your days. You're not looking at the war plan before making time decisions. That's another mistake. One thing people do is they don't update the plan. They put it in place, and they don't sit down weekly to alter it and make sure that it's still on track and the one they're following. You don't reset your war plan weekly to change it, when something changes in your life. Some big schedule change happens, but you don't reset the plan. You can assume also, as you're putting this plan together, that you're fine and, for example, don't need spiritual growth. You'll always find that's a mistake. Put it in the plan and follow it. Rest assured, stress won't stop. So if you're not preparing for the stress, it's going to be getting you. So just remember, we want to win this game. Your body is a vehicle for fulfilling God's purposes. God has put something in your heart, a holy dissatisfaction somehow with the status quo. He's given you something to do to change history. God has given you a great purpose, so you have to complete the task. If God has called you to do something great, then answer the phone. You want to do it. Transform your mind and put a plan in place and be well. And you'll have the time, the energy, and the discipline. Through the power of Christ in you, you'll have the strength to win. So stay focused on the time, the energy, and the discipline that it takes to not only run the race, not only to complete the race, but to win your race.